All right, are we ready?
Do it.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Oh, I forgot what episode we're on.
38.
38.
It's crazy.
That's awesome.
8. Took us 30 episodes to bring you back. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Slightly Serious Sign Podcast. This is episode 38. So we've been cruising along pretty good here, apparently.
38 para los personas en español. Oh.
Turn to channel 2. Yeah, so we brought back our first returning guest. I don't know if you knew this. I didn't think I even told you this. So
it's great.
Oh, yeah, I'll do that too. So first returning guest, you were on episode 8, so 30 weeks ago.
Thanks for having me back.
Rick keeps pointing at me. This episode is voted number 1 by Doug. I don't know if you can see him. I'll try and do my best Vanna White impression here. If you can see him, he sent us this Doug pillow. You might have seen it in a video, and this really obnoxious looking mug. I don't know what's going on with this handle, Doug, but
it's a donut.
I appreciate you sending me this donut mug. We appreciate it. We'll leave it here on the podcast set now. So appreciate you. But Dustin, welcome back.
Thanks.
So if you're listening, you didn't listen to the first episode, I might recommend listening to it. So we did kind of like an intro to Flatbed, printing it in episode 8. And today we're going to go through, I kind of just asked some of our reps and Mark, who's our equipment manager, in terms of questions that he got from customers when they're looking to buy, is basically what we're doing.
Sure.
I'm saying this, Domingo's nodding his head because it's also the first time he's heard of it. We were supposed to have someone else that usually sits in this chair here, but
yeah, Tyler decided to step up and take over Mike's spot.
Yeah,
so
I kicked him
just the way
out.
it is.
Yeah. We were getting really low ratings on the last few episodes, so we figured out we'd try and switch it up a little bit. So
there you go.
So FAQ on questions we get when someone is looking to buy, on kind of what they at least would need to know before they feel comfortable making the purchase. So
sure, if
you're in the market or might be in the market, or it's kind of getting toward the ends of the year with this episode. So if you're in needing to spend money at the end of the year, that's something hopefully this will help you make that decision. So Dustin, if you want to do a quick intro again, just on who you are, who you work for, how long you've been here, for people that didn't hear it the first time.
So my name's Dustin David. I work for Vanguard Digital Printing Systems. We're a UV flatbed manufacturer. We also do roll-to-roll and hybrids, of course, but flatbeds are our core products. I've been in the industry since 2000, worked on the distribution side for quite a while, and I've been with Vanguard now for about 4 years.
And Vanguard's how long have they been in business in the industry?
It's about a 9-year-old company. And we were acquired by Durst in 2019.
Okay.
And that expanded us into the EU and obviously gave us a lot of support from that side as well.
So you're all over the United States area, the whole...
Yeah, I would consider us a worldwide company at this point. So out of Atlanta, which is our current facility, we cover North America and South America. And then our sister facility in Italy handles the EU, Africa, and the Middle East. Okay. And we're partnering with Durst in Asia. So our products are going to start to be offered in Asia as well through Durst subsidiaries.
Okay.
Yep.
Good deal.
Do you want to swing your mic a little closer to Domingo?
Sorry.
No, spin it towards Domingo, just so when you talk to him, it picks it up. You're good.
Perfect.
But yeah.
First time doing this?
You guys.
Second time, actually.
Yeah. Trying to get the best possible audio here. That's what we're going for.
Great.
So the first question we had, so someone who's looking to get into the market, the first question we seem to always get, which I feel like it's pretty important, but I feel like most of the time, it doesn't end up mattering that much for most people.
Sure.
Is how fast can it run? That's always the question I get. How fast can it go?
How many boards can I get?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right? Doesn't matter what board you're going to put in it. How many boards can I get?
Speed is important. And it will kind of direct your decision on what type of press to buy, basically. What you get for paying more money is you get more speed. So our entry-level products starting at around $60,000 will get you a board about every 10 minutes. So 6 boards an hour for an entry-level product. That product is upgradable. That'll push you into kind of that 10, 12 board an hour range. Our mid-level products are going to be 20 to 40 boards an hour. Then we're going up to about 60 boards an hour, and our flagship product, the 3220, that machine is going to be in the kind of the 75 plus an hour range. If we talk about print times, what you're going to see is a 35-second board for the fastest board that we can produce that's sellable quality. Okay. That's on Coroplast. It's a 2-pass mode. It certainly is sellable. It's flying. And that's what we were showing at Printing United. So we have the Harpeth print to cut solution, and that's our 3220. Then we partnered with Colex for a conveyor system as well as their cutter. So fully automated. You load it, you hit the foot pedal once, it's going to print 35 seconds. It's going to offload, go down to the cutter and cut. So it's about a minute for that whole process to happen, for you to print and then have a cutout piece in the end.
So somebody doing political signs.
Correct.
Speaking of political.
Yeah. It's amazing. It's amazing for Coro.
Yeah, if you didn't have a chance to go to ISA and see that, you did have that displayed.
We did.
At Print United.
Yeah, we did.
Print United.
Yep.
Yeah, I didn't have an opportunity to go. The only lucky people get to go to that show, I guess. So
you'll be nicer around here, then you get invited.
They just didn't want to bring you to Vegas, Domingo.
Yeah.
Well, there's a history.
We got to go to bed early. If you would come, we'd have to bed late.
That is true. Well, if you're in Vegas, you're going to have fun.
That's true.
Unfortunately, I've been there 20-something times, and
I've
kind of know everything around there. But
been there plenty.
Yeah.
So you mentioned upgradable. So do you want to explain kind of how that works?
Sure.
Your equipment?
So all of our equipment, from our entry-level machine to our flagship models, the way we describe it is rows. You can add multiple print heads. You can start with 2 and you can go up to 10 or 15 depending on the machine. And if we think about it as a row of print heads, we've got up to 5 print heads in a single row. And our entry-level machine, our mid-level machine, and our higher-end machines are 2 to 10 print heads. And then our flagship models are up to 15 print heads. And what we're able to do is we configure the machine. We do all of the hard work in our factory. And then when we get on site, if you purchase a single row machine, it's pretty easy for our techs to come in, spend a day and a half, reconfigure the machine and add an additional row of heads. That's going to give you an 80% speed boost. So instead of replacing a machine, throwing away, that investment, you can purchase something within your budget, print with it, build your business, and then upgrade it in the future. It's a much better path rather than just kind of throwing away these big expensive machines. So
you have three different models currently available. 4?
A lot.
Yeah.
Well,
I can count through them, but our core products, we have 4 core flatbeds. We have a 10-foot roll-to-roll device, and we have a 98-inch hybrid.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if we talk about them being upgradable, so what's a reason somebody wouldn't just start on, say, the lowest machine and then upgrade from there versus getting the second or third tier?
I would say budget is probably the main reason. Right. So when you want to get into flatbeds, if it's your first flatbed, most people are kind of in that entry level or mid range, depending on the volume that they have. What I see is a lot of shops are outsourcing, and that might get into the 6 figures. Right. And once you get a decent amount of, outsourcing, you're sending out all your flat stock, you're spending $50,000, $60,000, $100,000 on outsourcing. It's time to bring in a printer. So that kind of customer would bring in a mid-level machine typically, or even one of our higher end machines to handle that kind of volume.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I look at when it comes to a flatbed, and you just discussed that, is that I also look at time savings.
Sure.
You know what I mean? When I send something to outsource, if they're busy, I'm not going to get that in time. I don't know what that. So, when am I going to get it? Well, it's going to be a week now. Well, I used to get it in 2 days. Now it's a week. So now I got to go back to my customer and tell them that it's a week and a half. So, I mean, that's another a thing that to look at when you're going to do any type of investment like that, is you also have to factor in that the savings of time is also there.
And then they mess it up and it's another week.
Yeah.
Controlling that process in-house is critical, right? It could be a color match that's off or something that you can easily catch on the front end. When you're outsourcing, that might not necessarily be the case, and you might have to deal with the waste factor and reprints and things like that. So having control over that process makes it a lot easier. And in the end, you turn that product out to your client faster, cheaper, and you're capturing all the margin instead of giving it to somebody else.
Yeah, I think the hardest thing is taking that step. Taking that initial investment step to do it.
It's a
but
leap,
the numbers are
for
there.
Sure. Yeah.
You can look at the ROI and you can easily put it on paper and everything will be right there.
Yeah.
But it's just saying, I got to do it.
Yeah, it's a commitment, and there are several different ways to justify it, right? If your business is growing and that's a consistent trajectory, then as you add in equipment that's going to create efficiency, that's going to give you a better product, that's really going to just launch your growth, right? So that's what we see. We see a lot of our clients starting with an entry level. They might upgrade it. They might trade it in on a mid level or a high level machine, and we just see that growth consistently build. And in a lot of cases, it becomes machine 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. So
what we've seen, I mean, I think the current sign shops are super blessed with a lot of super good wholesale options.
Sure.
Like before, I think even a couple of years ago, we were talking about it'd be like, a couple week lead time now, right? And we're super blessed. We're in the spot where people can order it and get it like 2-3 days now, which is insane, right? So a lot of people just don't care, right? They're just kind of looking at it like, I'm not going to do it. I get them in 3 days now. Why would I worry about it? Yeah, I don't have to touch it. We make money. It's fine. But we've never placed a flatbed and had them do less business than they did before, right?
Yeah.
They always do more business after they have it in their shop. So you're looking at it like, I don't have to touch it now, but you're also don't realize you're missing opportunities with your current setup,
right?
Because you don't know what you can do or what you can't do until you have it in front of you. So
absolutely.
I mean, a lot of decisions are also made where a customer, I'll be at a show and they'll come up and say, how many boards can this one do? And it's like, because I have a job that I might win, and this is where it may fall into play. And it's like, don't look at it as just that job.
Yeah.
What else can you be doing that gives you the better opportunity of making more money and pay for that investment? Because there are some customers that get that big deal and it's already paid. The machine's paid for.
Yep.
Yep.
It's more common than you would think.
Yeah,
for sure. Especially when it's machine 2 and 3. Usually that's where, I've got 400,000 Coroplast signs I need to print. So
I have one fully upgraded machine and it hasn't turned off in 7 days. So if I can get another one, that'd probably be a good idea at this point.
For sure.
Yeah, that's where you definitely should look at another one. If yours hasn't stopped running in a few days, it's time to get a second one probably too. So,
or a faster one, right? I would say, we do place a lot of customers' first machines, right? We've got a really strong product in the entry level. But I think where we really succeed out there in the market is we're replacing older machines. We're replacing machines that are a year old where a customer's not happy or they can't quite hit the volume that they need to do. That's really where Vanguard is the most successful because we have incredible high-end machines at a great value. So we can come in and we can double or triple or quadruple your productivity like that.
Yeah. We also see a lot of people get your entry level, and then the next one will be the step up, and then the step up again from there.
It usually is.
The benefit with that is that they mostly run the same, right? Mm-hmm. So although there's a little differences on them, for the most part, the customer runs them the same as they run all of their other
familiar
machines. So it's super easy to get, basically, instead of getting a totally different machine that's faster than the one you had before, you're just getting a newer one, basically, than the one you had before. So
you got it.
Yeah, I mean, so the other thing that comes up, we talk about passes, right? So you're talking about high speed, you're running it at 2 pass.
Sure.
So you want to talk about kind of the difference between high speed and high quality, or how that works on a flatbed, or why that should matter to someone buying them.
Well, it's very application specific, right? So, if you're doing Coroplast, you're using a fluted material, you're going to put that outside. It's going to be viewed at a distance. That's where high speed really comes into play. The toughest single thing to do, I think, with the flatbed is to print high quality at high speed. That's very, very challenging. We, on some of our higher end presses, can do that amazingly well. And really the kind of, to get a little technical behind how it works, a pass is how many times the head has to traverse to cover the width of the head, right? So a 2-pass means it has to go back and forth twice to cover that full width of the head. So the lower the pass number, the wider the pass each time you print, and therefore the faster speeds. When you get into 4, 6, 8 pass, 12 pass, that's where you have a lot of passes. You're going to have sharper text. You're going to have higher resolution, no banding and solid colors, things like that. So you're just producing a higher quality product. In that application, you might be printing backlit acrylics, right? Or a high-end foam core that's going for a museum application. So the ability to do both high speed and high quality with the same machine is great. It allows you to do basically everything and to be as efficient as possible for a given application, right? So if you're doing coroplast, you want to get it out the door as fast as possible. It's a lower margin product, usually higher volume, so it makes sense to print it that way. Typically, a backlit acrylic is not a super high volume product, right? But it has to be good. It has to look amazing because you're going to get a high amount of margin for that application. So versatility matters. Absolutely.
Wide range of products.
Yeah, on the high quality side of things, I think what we're seeing a lot lately is that going up inside of buildings. So kind of in place of where we were doing vinyl before, like even at the Grand Rapids Airport here, that when you leave the airport, they have that wall where it's Amway and all of those, where it's, my assumption is just based on looking at it, that these are all, they look like flatbed printed ACM panels, right? That are on the wall. And obviously that's super high quality, right? People are looking at that from 6 inches, basically. I mean, they're literally walking right by it. So that has to be a high quality product versus, like political signs where you're driving by them at 55 miles an hour, right? If they have banding in them, nobody's going to even see them from the road. And
even applications like labeling items, right? So we do a lot, partner with a lot of manufacturers who might be labeling a panel that goes onto a machine, right? So plug X into X. So you get the really fine text or knockout text, and that's where high quality matters as well. So it's not just the most beautiful print that you're looking at. It's things like resolving text so you can read it and you can print a 2-point text to 3-point text well.
Yeah. So you talk about printing on like labels for that kind of package. What other kind of stuff besides the substrates that we're familiar with? Right?
Yeah,
we already talked about ACM. We already talked about
what's the weirdest thing that you've seen go through the machine? A door?
Yeah, I mean, doors are, so we do a show called the IWF show, and it's every 2 years in Atlanta. It's a fantastic show. And the applications that come out of that could be faux wood grain on a door, or taking a really low quality piece of wood and making it look like an exotic wood grain. So, those are really cool applications, and it's kind of unlimited, right? It could be a front door that you're printing a really nice wood grain on, to home decor that you're purchasing in home goods, right? So we have a lot of clients that do volume of home decor, and you're going into home goods and you're buying the words on a wall, and that's coming off of Vanguard. Things like restaurant applications. There are restaurants out there where our clients have the entire chain, and they're printing every single piece that goes into the restaurant. So everything on the walls, stuff that's on chairs, tabletops, bar tops. It's pretty cool. In terms of weird applications, we have clients printing on skateboard grip tape. So basically sandpaper.
Yeah.
That's a strange one. And then all types of customization and personalization. So you're using a fixture to put a cell phone case, to print on a cell phone case, or to print on AirPods, to customize it. So it's really an unlimited amount of applications that you can do with the machine. It basically needs to fit into the printer and then you can print on it. Even things like glass, we have pretty good adhesion to glass and low energy surfaces. So some of the items that people might avoid or have avoided in the past because of adhesion issues and things like that, we can print on successfully as well.
Well, now you bring up that, and that also comes to my mind is different ink types.
Sure.
So you got high adhesion. You have give us, I guess, a background of some of the ink
Yep, for sure. So, ink obviously matters. It's not everything, but it's a majority of kind of the nature of UV printing. And we have two different head types that we use in our presses. We have Kyocera heads, and then we have Rico heads. On the Rico side, we have a singular ink set that's fantastic across the board. Rico heads are a little bit easier to build ink for, so the chemistry is a little bit easier, and we were able to nail it with a single ink set, and it produces amazing results. Just like we were talking about Printing United, we won 9 Pinnacle Awards this year, every category that we entered. And that's all based on print quality, right? I saw the testing that we were doing in Atlanta, and you print a series of patches, and it's who gets the best LAB value off of this patch wins the award. So it's all based on print quality and color accuracy. So yeah, you can do just a ton of different things there.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about it on the Print United recap episode where I said, we were just talking about Pinnacle Awards, and I said, after the small format flatbed options, so like the MO, I believe one that's sitting out there, one for the Roland MO240,
sure,
one for the small format UV. As soon as we passed that category, it was Vanguard all the way up until we got to Durst, basically. That's how it worked. It literally went from whatever, I think they had it by price is how they actually had it. So it was like,
the categories
50 to 75 or something like that. And then it was like 75 to 125.
Prices. Yeah,
but it was literally just Vanguard from the small format all the way up to, and then it was Durst, which means like basically they're still winning. Yeah. Like it doesn't make, so to give an idea, like it's like, we always talk about it like, we wouldn't sell it if we didn't believe in the product. And it's like, okay, here's additional proof, right? It's not like just us that's saying like, hey, this thing is good. Like, no, like legitimately, it's good.
I can't be 100% for certain, but I think it's the most single awards that anybody's ever won, especially in the UV category this time around. So we did really well. Durst did very well. They got 4, so we got 13 total between the group.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah, I mean, there's only like 3 more options in that whole category, and they're all the smaller side and roll to roll, obviously. But
yeah, and to circle back about ink types. So with the Rico, we have a single ink set. It works fantastic. With Kyocera, we have a variety of different ink sets. We kind of standardize on a high adhesion ink set. So that's going to be very good for low energy plastics, acrylics. We do still recommend a digital acrylic, and that's for a couple reasons. The quality of the material is significantly better. It's not necessarily related to the adhesion. It's more like the product turns over better. It's that you're going to get good results every time with that product. You're not going to have a failure. But if you're printing on non-digital acrylics, our high adhesion inks do perform well. We welcome our clients during a sample process to send, the sheets of acrylic that they have in a container in their parking lot, send them down to us. We'll print on them. We'll ship them back, and you tell us how the adhesion is. We do a very good job. We're launching a new ink set pretty quick here for Kyocera, and it's a slightly better gamut. It has a little bit more flexibility, so it's, I think, going to become a better all-around ink set for us. Our high adhesion ink set right now is fantastic, but it doesn't bend as nice as we would want it to, and this could be the single ink set that we were looking for the Kyocera heads. So we'll see with time. We have plenty of clients out there running it right now successfully, and the feedback has been excellent. So it just takes us a while to launch something like that for the greater crowd.
You got to make sure it tests properly.
Due diligence.
Yeah,
definitely.
So you talked about, this just brings up a good point. You talked about, you recommend digital printable acrylic, right? Which we probably should end up doing a whole episode on acrylic, because this has come up a few times already. But is there besides that substrate, is there other times where maybe a different version of the same substrate would just be a better option for UV across the board, not specific to Vanguard, but just like, hey, this specific substrate usually doesn't come out so good? Or is that not usually a problem?
I wouldn't really say to avoid any substrates in particular, but if you have 5 choices and 4 are non-digital and 1 is digital, you're going to get better performance on that digital substrate every time. And really what it comes down to is that there typically is a corona treatment, which helps adhesion. And one thing a lot of people don't think about is corona treatments have a clock. Right. So once that sheet is manufactured, it's treated, it's typically got a protective cover over it, and that sits on a shelf. After 6 to 9 months, it's not effective anymore. So the turnover rate of a product like that does matter. And if you're buying old stock, or, somebody went out of business and you're buying a pallet of acrylic that's been sitting there for 2 years, the corona treatment doesn't matter anymore. It's basically a non-digital acrylic at that point. So having something that's treated, having something that is digital will always be a higher quality product than the non-digital version. We just emphasize testing and doing it scientifically. Dyne levels are important. Typically, I see dyne testing on coroplast and mainly on the plastic side. And then we use a crosshatch test. So it's a specific tool that you purchase. It creates a crosshatch in a specific repeatable way with the same amount of pressure every time. So as you go from substrate to substrate to substrate, you know that you're repeating the same test. It even comes with tape, and you use the same tape on each material, right? You can't just pull a painter's tape from over here and a piece of duct tape from over there to do your testing. You have to do a repeatable test in order to kind of judge between different materials. So I would suggest for everybody that kind of expands out and gets into unique and odd materials to grab a crosshatch tool, grab a dyne pen, and utilize those before you do a lot of production.
I think the one I've seen most recently in terms of, let's just call it like customer complaints is, I guess, the word I'll use for it.
Challenges. I like challenges.
Challenges, sure. Is somebody having issues with getting like good color out of their flatbed, and it ended up coming down to basically the white point of the substrate that you're using, right? Right? So if you get like a low end coroplast, right? Or laminate core is what I should have said, but they don't have low end, so I'll say coroplast. That's even better, actually.
You're going to get in trouble for that.
They get a low end coroplast.
Coro.
Yeah. No, it's good. I'm saying low end because laminate core doesn't have it. You know what I mean? They sell
they stay high end. Okay, okay.
Quality products for sure.
So if you get a low end one, oftentimes the white point is pretty mediocre. So when you're going to print on it, I mean, that's your starting point on your ink, right? When it goes down, it's going to go to whatever that is, right? You could print white, but that would be kind of defeat the purpose on a supposedly white substrate. So that's the other thing I think at least we've run into. So I don't know if that comes across I know in ACM that can become a factor. It's not as likely, but
substrates, the base color, it could be a warm tone or a cool tone, and that will impact your final color. I'll put a spot out there for spectrophotometers. A little bit of training and the right tool will eliminate those problems completely. But yeah, you're going to have to spend 10, 15 minutes doing a linearization, which looks at the white point of the material, looks at how all of the color channels are firing, making sure that, when you're calling for 10% cyan, you're getting 10% cyan on the material. So having a tool in-house and getting a little bit of training on how to use it right will allow you to print on that yellowish material and get good color, right? Because you're using the white point of that specific material to calibrate and then to get better color in the end. So there are tools out there that will fix that problem for sure.
Now, when you say color calibration, which is the same with any printer that you're basically doing color.
Yep. All printers.
What software does Vanguard recommend?
Sure.
I mean, there's probably customers out there that say, well, I have this software. Will I run a Vanguard? So on and so on. So what softwares would you say that Vanguards would work on currently? Onyx, we know that.
Sure.
But is there any other softwares?
So the 99% out there is Onyx. And I've been using it for 25 years. It's a fantastic rip. It's got all of the profiling and everything you need to do color management built in. And I can go on and on about how good that software is. We also support Caldera, which again is another fantastic rip out there. So I'd say our number 1 is Onyx, our number 2 is Caldera. because of our relationship with Durst and how the Vanguard products are sold in Europe, there is a Durst rip option in Europe. We don't typically offer that in the US because of the cost, but existing Durst clients in the US, maybe they have a P5 or 3 P5s and they want a flatbed for some unique applications. We do have drivers for the Durst RIP software as well. So you can drive it through the same workflow as your higher end equipment. And then if you name a RIP, we probably have a driver out there for it.
Okay.
RIP companies are willing to expand their driver library, typically at no cost. So, if somebody has a specific use case that would require RIP XYZ, we can typically get a driver built for it. Now, it takes some time. It's not instant, but we typically can do that for sure.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
then,
so anybody that has Onyx right now and needs to upgrade, make sure you get with your sales reps, because I have been getting a lot of calls.
It is good to stay current for sure.
yeah, it definitely
Absolutely.
helps.
Yeah.
Upgrades get more expensive as time goes on, so you should keep up on it. But the only thing I don't think we covered on in terms of printing is you talked about as long as it fits in the printer, you can print on it. So what's the max height that we're working with?
So the short answer is 4 inches. The long and accurate answer is 3.98 inches. So it's 10 centimeters, and that doesn't actually equate out to 4 inches. We've had that come up once. So it's 3.98 inches for the Z-axis.
Okay. And then you talked about the different machine options you have. What's the bed size on those units?
So our entry and mid-level machines are 4x8 products, and they will print slightly larger than a 4x8 sheet, so you can do a full bleed all the way around. Then our VK300 is a 5x10 platform, and then we have a 6x10 platform in our 3220. So that's our biggest flatbed. On the roll-to-roll side, we have a 10-foot width that's dual roll capable. So that machine will handle 2 60-inch rolls, no problem. And then on our hybrid, it's a 98-inch width. So that machine's set up to do 4x8s, one sideways or 2 at a time.
Okay, perfect. I forgot what the other question I was going to ask after that one was.
Well, I was going to say all these machines have shut-off zones that you can actually, like if I have a small 24 by 24, which is I can shut off that zone area. Yeah.
So I like to call it kind of progressive zones, because what you'll see out there is there's typically a quadrant zone, which means you just look at the table and you cut it into 4 equal pieces. That doesn't really work well with most production, right? The sizes just don't jive with smaller material that you typically use. So we do a 24 by 24, another 24 by 24. So those are zones 1 and 2. Zone 3 is 24 by 48 inches. And then zone 4 would be basically your 4 by 4 to fill up that 4 by 8 sheet. On our 5 by 10s, same zones, but then we also have a true 5 by 10 zone. So on a 5 by 10 machine, you get a true 4 by 8 zone and a true 5 by 10 zone. And then on our 6 by 10 beds, it's yet another zone. Actually 7 zones total on that machine. But again, it's progressive. So it will handle small sheets well. It will handle a true 4 by 8 zone, a true 5 by 10 zone, and then the remainders to fill out the bed.
Okay. It works really well for if you're only going to do like one 24 by 18 or one 24 by 36, that initial zones work awesome. I think they even work a little basically because you're reducing the suction zone. They actually work. They'll really suck it down in the end. It
does. Yeah. And we have 2 vacuum motors in our standard vacuum tables. So our 4x8, 5x10, 6x10, they all have 2 vacuum motors. They all go into basically a single plenum. So as you're dialing back your zones, you're putting the vacuum pressure from both motors into that smaller zone. So that helps, right? When you have a slightly warped substrate that's small that you need to hold down, what it does is reduce or eliminate taping, right? The whole goal is in production is to try to put that sheet down, hit one button and hit print. You don't want to tape. You don't want to have to use sacrificial sheets here or there there to cover the extra zones. And that's why we size them for 4x8 and we size it for 5x10. So that we just try to create efficiency that way. And the vacuum systems work really, really well.
Yeah. On bowed sheets for us, we run to sometimes on foam cores where you'll run into where it has like that arch in the middle.
Sure.
No issues on the Vanguard regardless of the size, right? We've done the small, so 24x36, and then we've done 4x8 sheets. They'll come bowed, hit the vacuum, pull it right down.
And I think it's important to discuss too. So if you're in kind of standard signage world and you're using standard signage materials, our standard vacuum systems are fantastic, right? They're going to work really well for that world. If you step outside of that, we do offer 2 different extended vacuum systems or more powerful vacuum systems. And I'll send you guys a video. If you could like inset the video in this podcast, it would be awesome.
Rick, good luck.
Perfect. So you'll see a video here in a second of a corner of a piece of wood actually being sucked down. So these machines will basically take a banana and suck it flat. It's pretty amazing what we can do from the vacuum side on tough to handle materials. I can tell you that pretty much every other manufacturer out there would say you can't print on that. We have solutions that will actually work, and they're very popular. We sell a lot of these into kind of niche manufacturing. We sell a lot of them into the corrugated cardboard space, where it's one of the worst materials to work with, especially if you're buying really cheap corrugated materials. They're warped. They're not flat. And I see other manufacturers at trade shows taping them down, and I laugh because that's not efficient. You could never efficiently produce if you have to tape every single sheet that goes through the machine. So our standard vacuum systems are fantastic. The 2 different models that we have, which is our SS and our HVT machines, work incredibly well. We also offer it's a VFD, or it's a variable drive system for those motors. So all of the newer machines that are going out have variability. So you don't have to run the vacuum motors at 100%. You can say, okay, I'm printing on styrene. I'm going to dial it down to 10%. Or I'm printing on paper. I'm going to go 3% with the vacuum, or 100% to suck that wood flat.
Yep.
So.
We had an application in Holland doing that, exactly what you're just talking about with.
Exactly.
They were doing home decor, wooden signs, and it was straight down, pull them all the way down. You're not moving that piece of wood either. That thing is on the table. I would say that the variability probably was super helpful because that vacuum is also very loud, which makes sense. That's what it's supposed to do, right? Is suck it down. So
it's a beast.
Yeah.
And it's we use a twin vacuum motor system on both of those designs, and it's 2 5.5 horses or 2 7.5 horsepower vacuum pumps.
What's the power? What's the power requirement, I guess you would say, for these machines? Because a lot of people out there are probably saying, "Wow, these are beasts. These are big. Do I even have the right power for these things?"
And that's going to be critical for those 2 models that I mentioned. They are the only models that we have that are 3-phase.
3-phase.
So the power that's required for the printer is the same as any other model, but the vacuums are powered separately, and it is powered by a 3-phase connection. So that does need more power than the typical machines. Typically, it's more industrial though when you're getting into that type of vacuum system, and power usually isn't an issue for those.
Yeah. And what is the standard power requirement on the regular presses?
Sure. It's a 30 amp single phase 220 connection. We require 2 of them. And then we require a 110 line, and obviously like a network connection. Air is required as well. We drive our pins pneumatically, and our switch from vacuum to blow is pneumatic as well. So we just drive a couple things with air on the machine.
And the 110 is for the PC to drive.
Yeah, so the PC actually is connected through the 220 connection internally. But what we do for a power outage situation is we drive our vacuum pumps, which effectively, if you're not familiar with UV printing, you have to have vacuum pressure in the head to keep the ink suspended in the head. So that's what keeps the head wet and ready to fire. And other printers, it's like a damper system that holds the ink up on top of the head. So UV printing is a little bit different. we connect a 110 line and a backups. So basically something you buy on Amazon for $100. And if you get power outage, that will power that vacuum pump system probably for about 24 hours, depending on the size backups you buy. And that just keeps the ink in the heads. So that's why we need a separate line.
Good.
Yeah, that's basically what's going to prevent them from drying out, which
Right.
would be
Exactly.
the only issue you're kind of going to run into on.
Yeah,
during a power
worst case scenario, you lose the ink in your heads. You just have some purging that you need to do to bring it back, but you're wasting probably 15 milliliters of ink if that would happen. So there's a little bit of ink waste as well.
For sure.
Yep.
So talking about inks, what does the maintenance look like on these units? Are they doing it? Is someone coming to do it? How exactly does that work?
So maintenance, daily maintenance is about a 15-minute procedure. There's some in the morning, some at night, and it looks like you come in, you fire up the machine. It's going to do its checks to hit all the limit switches and sensors to make sure everything's okay. You're going to purge the print heads, and basically what you're doing is you're wetting the print surface. So everybody thinks, oh, I'm purging, I'm just going to dump a bunch of ink out of the heads. That's not the goal. The goal is to just create a little bit of wet ink on the bottom of the print head, and then you're wiping that off with a lint-free cloth. So it's very easy maintenance. It's very quick. And I think one of the key things is you're in control over how much ink you use during the process, right? So anything that is automated, you don't typically have control over it. And those printers typically sit there and just drink ink all the time to keep them ready for printing. We take a completely opposite philosophy, and we make it very easy for the user to do the maintenance. And you have control over that process as well.
Perfect. And then the other question on ink side that we get is what is the cost to run the machine in terms of like what does the ink cost to run like a 4x8 sheet, I guess would be an example.
Yeah. So without doing the math, the quick and easy math is through thorough testing. And I'm talking about not just looking at the amount of ink that we used, but things like actually weighing substrates before and after it was printed, using, like evaporation factors and all kinds of stuff that I don't really understand. Effectively, it's 10 cents a square foot at MSRP for ink price. So it's considerably less than what you would get for like a solvent printer or even a latex printer on vinyl. If that's what you're used to doing, it's going to be less than half of what you're used to from an ink cost perspective.
Yeah, and that's just ink costs. We're not talking time.
Yeah.
I think both. Roland doesn't even put out the number anymore, not that I know of, but Roland and Epson for a while were the advertised rate that I told people at least was roughly 25 cents.
Yeah, 25 to 30, on the high end. So it depends on the manufacturer, but sometimes they tier it. You're paying a little bit more for ink on one model, a little bit less on another model. And, so you're somewhere in that range typically. And if you look at the most common applications that you print, typically you're not full coverage. That's actually a pretty rare application. And that 10 cents a square foot is based on full coverage. So if you're just printing, now open with a white background, you're not at 10 cents. Yeah. You're considerably less than that. So what we teach our clients to do is just the cost for the worst case scenario. And then it's a win if it winds up being less.
Perfect. And then the question we get when people they've seen everything, right? They love it. Looks great. They're like, what's the lead time on it? And we usually get this question based on they've talked to somebody else, right? Who's shipping it in from overseas, which is where most of them are coming from. So what does the lead time look like on a Vanguard? Great
question. So we build to order in Atlanta, and our typical lead time is about 4 weeks. Sometimes, depending on the trade show and the volume of transactions that happen around that time, it could go up to 6 weeks, but typically we deliver the 4th week and then we install the 5th week. At times it can be less, but that's kind of typical lead times for us.
And what does the installation look like?
Installation is an entire week. So we ship the machine. It usually arrives, on a Sunday. The truck driver comes in at night. They're just waiting to unload the machine for Monday morning. Our technician will come in and do the basic setup over the first few days. And then the last half of the week is training.
Perfect.
So there's pre-install checklist, all that stuff.
Definitely.
Because you got to have the right power. You got to have the right room. area?
Yeah, it's got to fit,
or do
right?
we have to fit the door?
It's got to fit.
Yeah,
that's
so
the
all that
most
stuff.
important thing.
No, it's not going in an elevator, and no, we're not carrying it up a stairs.
Yeah. Yeah. So space is obviously the big one, right?
Yeah,
so when we talk about a machine, I mean, the 3220, for example, let's talk about it. So it prints 6x10 roughly, right?
Yep.
So what's the footprint of that machine though?
So it's a pretty big footprint. And I don't know, the exact square dimension off the top of my head, but that's a big machine, right? And if you're purchasing a machine like that, space should be the last thing on your mind, typically.
So. Yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Right. But it does disassemble, and I believe that will fit through a 72-inch door.
That's crazy.
So
That's
yeah.
amazing.
So our 5x10 or 6x10, and you don't quote me on this. Maybe we'll put a little asterisk with what the actual figure is.
Check the PDF.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's 72 inches across the board. And our 4x8s will fit into a smaller opening than that.
But probably not into your basement. Probably not likely.
No, not going to happen.
So-
maybe if you break out the Sawzall and go at it, you might get it down there.
Take out a few windows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A few support beams. Those are just,
Yes, sir.
those are decoration.
I always
You don't need
wanted
them anyways.
I always wanted a porch over there.
I always wanted, yeah.
Yeah. Then the 2-car garage opens up and the printer's there. So
The car stays outside now. It's fine.
Exactly.
Besides power, what are other things people need to worry about in terms of where it needs to go in the building?
So I'd say if you're comfortable, the printer's comfortable. So environment is really important. And more so the consistency of the environment, versus, the actual temperature, right? We can print in an 85, 90 degree room all day long, but if you go from 45 degrees to 90, that's going to be an issue. Right. So if you're consistent with temperature, you're going to get consistent results. And that comes down to where we set the negative pressure. Right. So temperature impacts how the machine works with the ink and just the temperatures of everything. So you will kind of tweak the printer to its environment. And we obviously do that during setup. We teach our clients, so seasonally you can do a click or two up on your negative pressure or down if you need to. Michigan's one, right? If you're in a warehouse environment, you're 90 degrees in the summer, you're 60 or 55 degrees in the winter, right? And you can calibrate the machine to that. But keeping your environment consistent, keeping a decent level of humidity is important. And then things like don't direct all of your air vents at the printer.
I was going to say, don't put it next to the router. Okay.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, that's the other
Dust
one.
is
I've
the
seen it
enemy.
once.
Dust is the enemy,
Yes.
for sure. And we probably have about 30 cornhole guys out there, every day just crushing through cornhole boards. And it's one of the messier environments our printer goes into because of the wood dust, right? Most of these guys are running a bunch of CNCs and just dealing with a lot of wood. And wood is probably the most caustic dust out of anything. That and what the HDU stuff, right? So sign foam and wood are the two bad ones. Just separate it, right? You've got a warehouse, build a little room, put that machine in there, and you can control the environment at that point. Your routers are happy regardless of what the temperature is. The printer, just throw up some walls real quick, put a HVAC unit in, a little quick one, and you're good to go.
Yeah. Besides that, you talked earlier about, hey, if you're subbing out this much work, it's probably time to get one. So I think we look at it from two sides, right? It's one, if you're doing this many substrates without by hand or with a rollover table, if you're lucky, or literally by hand squeegeeing them all, or if you're subbing it out, what is kind of that number that someone should look at in terms of, hey, it's probably time for me to start looking at buying one?
Like a beginner, an entry level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you're fortunate enough to be doing it all by hand, and mounting vinyl, and you're able to sell it at a profit, then it's going to be a pretty quick decision to make, right? Because you're going to be able to capture a huge amount of margin back from the labor reduction and the cost of goods reduction, right? So if you're doing everything in house, you're going to be able to bring it in sooner. In terms of putting a dollar figure on outsourcing, once you cross like that $25,000 threshold is when you start to take a look, right? Hey, I'm outsourcing a lot of stuff. And then it gets to 50,000. Now what you're outsourcing, you can immediately put into an entry level product and start to bring that work in house. So somewhere in between that range is where it starts to make sense. And obviously if it's 6 figures, it's a no brainer to bring it in, right? At that 6-figure threshold, you're going to be able to get into a decent speed machine. And if you're outsourcing 6 figures, that's a lot. You're going to be able to handle that volume with that type of price tag.
Yeah. I think the third option, if you're listening to this, is if your accountant tells you in the next 45 days that you need to spend money, we have a solution for you. Okay. It doesn't matter how much he tells you. Okay. We'll get it figured out for you. Yeah, so don't you worry about it.
But Section 179 is important.
But you need to get that machine ordered pretty quickly.
Yeah. So if you're listening to this and he told you, it's probably about now is when you got 4 weeks to get it is what we're being told. And we have, I think from the time this airs, about 6 weeks till the end of the year. So you got 2 weeks to get your order in. So
yeah, that's about right. And we can deliver a crate before year end relatively easily, but getting it installed is another thing, right? So typically, it depends on what your accountant says. That could be an invoice and you're happy, or it could be physical crate on the ground, right? So we just need to know that and understand that, and then we can kind of set our production schedule to make everybody happy. So
perfect. So if they want to, if they have questions, they want to see a machine, since we sold ours, so there's not one here. We would tell you to come here, but currently we have 14 other machines that took the place of the space that you guys had for whatever reason.
It's packed
a lot going in. Yeah. There's a lot going on here. If you look at our demo room right now, you can barely walk in here, which seems crazy.
Sure.
But, so how would they get a hold of it? Where would they go to see it? All that good stuff.
First things first, get a hold of your Wensco rep. Right. Start that conversation with them and they'll connect you with me. And from there, we can go to existing clients all over the country, or we'd be happy to have you at our facilities in Atlanta. After the first year, that facility, our sales and demo center will be located in Nashville. So up until the end of the year, we'll be doing that out of our Atlanta facility. And then that's going to become more closer. Of a... Yeah, it's closer, and I nothing against Atlanta. It's a great city, but I love Nashville. So.
Everything against Atlanta.
I don't like the airport.
Yeah, I don't
used
like the
to
heat,
it.
Dude.
I'm used to it.
Brutal.
It's hot.
I was there. When was that? A few months ago, 2-3 months ago now. And the first thing someone said to me when I showed up was, "Welcome to Hotlanta." And I was like, "How that's funny." And then I went outside and it was 101 degrees outside.
Oh, it's true. It's true. It's
like
Florida in the summer.
No convertible, dude. I AC covered the whole time. I'm not. No, thank you. It's horrible.
I walk right past him every time.
Like, no, thank you. It's way too hot here. So, well, that's sweet. Nashville's a lot closer for us too. So
that's from Louisville.
Even more.
And
ideal.
then I think another thing that's important. Go out on the web. Search for Vanguard. Look at our YouTube channel. We've got a lot of great content and videos up there. VanguardDigital.com, and obviously Wensco as well. So
yeah, perfect. We have some videos up. I have a video. I think we posted. I have it on my LinkedIn too of when you guys launched the 3220 of it running.
I remember that.
You said. Whatever time, at the time you advertised a higher time. I think when we saw it originally, you guys said it was roughly like 50 seconds a sheet. And everyone's like, "Oh, that's crazy."
It's significantly faster now.
Yeah, we timed it. And it, like, when the first day we saw it, when I timed it, it was 36 seconds on the video. And they're like, "Yeah, it can do a sheet in 50 seconds." We're like, "I just watched it do it in 36. So they're like, "Yeah, we don't know for sure yet how fast it can run."
And that machine's been out for more than a year now.
Yeah.
And they're, through firmware revisions and just work that we've done on the machine, we've actually been able to squeak out quite a bit more performance out of it. So, and that's going to be an ongoing thing as well as we kind of transition Atlanta into more of an R&D center. We're going to continue to work on our products and improve them and make them better.
So last thing we talked about at the beginning of this, but do you want to just touch on the new thing you guys came out with is that all-in-one solution? Do you kind of want to just give a better understanding of how that works and what exactly it's for, or who the customer would be that's ideal for?
That.
Definitely. Yeah. I can break it down pretty simply. So if you're in a high volume environment where you're moving a lot of sheets through and you're cutting, the Harpeth workflow basically allows you to print and cut with the operator only interacting by putting the sheet down on the bed. And then typically another operator will pull the cut pieces off of the cutter. Right. So the most important thing with that is that workflow works really well if you're cutting squares and rectangles. If you're cutting a golf ball shape, the cutter instantly becomes slower than the printer and it kind of breaks down the automation workflow. So the idea is if you're doing squares, 18 by 24 Coro, more rectangular POP things on styrene or foam board, things like that, that printer is going to be able to print and cut and just keep going all day long. So yeah, it's a print to cut solution. It's our flagship printer, the fastest model that we offer. We partnered with Colex, and Colex developed the inline solution for us, including the conveyor, and our awesome black Vanguard branded Colex, right? So it's a very good looking solution and a great looking machine as well.
And what is like the starting price on something like that?
That's going to be in the $500,000 range.
Yeah. I asked that because, that number sounds like a lot when we say it, obviously, on the podcast. But if you compare it to the other options that are out there, there's not much even close to that. Like we saw the one last, what would they be? Print United last year. We saw the robotic arm thing.
Sure.
And it was like, I think when I asked the dude, I was like, how much does this cost? And he was like, I think it was like 1.1 million.
Yeah, I think it was
that
like
was just
million,
the arm.
over $1 million. Yeah.
It was just the arm.
Yeah.
It wasn't the cutter and the printer. It was just the arm. The arm was $1 million to get it from the printer to the cutter.
Yep. And when you get into full automation, $1 million is kind of, that's the cheapest solutions that you're going to find out there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
For
So
sure.
you're coming in when you told us this would have been last year, you guys said we're working on it.
Yep.
And that's what you told me. You said we want to come in the $400,000 to $500,000 range. I was like, that'd be sweet if we pull it off. And then a year later it's here. So
yeah,
it's cool.
It's doable. It works incredibly well. And we've partnered with an excellent company. So, that product, we've placed several of them already. We're going to see a lot of growth on that side. Obviously political season, it's really important every kind of 2 and 4 years. But on a day-to-day basis, again, think of squares and rectangles, right? So POP, a lot of POP is a rectangular shape. Now your operator only needs to put the sheet down and it's going to print and then cut for him.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, your guy that ran it at Print United, he stood in the same spot
you're locked
for 4 days.
You're not moving.
You can only move about 4 feet because you got about 50 seconds before you got to be back on that printer again. So that's cool because you don't have to take them off. It just slides off the back.
It's like what we said when we're in the political season and they change candidates. We're like, yeah,
that's what we said.
Exactly.
Let's do it again.
Yeah. Once you hear this episode, finally we'll be done with the political ads, but that means we're done with.
I'm excited to.
We're
move
done with
past
Coro.
Yes, I'm done. Done with the text. Done with the emails. Done with just.
Yep.
I'm done.
I'm happy for everybody that got a ton of business.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm congratulations. It's awesome, but let's get past it.
Yeah. I deleted yesterday. I deleted 52 text messages, and that was from noon the day before.
Wow.
36 hours.
Just unreal.
That's when you just ditch your phone number.
Yeah, literally.
Just get rid of it.
So Damon Geneva, he texted me. This was like a week ago. He texted me and then he emailed me like 4 days later. I was like, hey, I texted you. I never heard back. I was like, you texted me when? I had to scroll for so long, dude. I was scrolling for days to find that message.
I was going to bring that up. As soon as you hear it, ding, it's like,
yeah. And then I just started sweat. And then the same thing. Like somebody here is like, hey, I texted you to see if you were free today. And I was like, when? I had to scroll 47 things back. Like it's everywhere, dude. It's like email, phone calls, text messages. It's just so many messages. Unbelievable. So yeah, happy to be done with that season, but happy to also, it's a nice season to be in the sign business too, for business. So it's great. But
Dustin, we thank you for coming.
Yeah. Thanks.
Appreciate it.
And the second time here, which is great.
Yeah. And I'd love to come back for sure.
Well, we'll probably do it again when new machines or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
But appreciate you being here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. Hopefully it was a little more in depth than the last one, and we'll see you in the next episode. So
thanks.
See ya.
Appreciate it.
Goodbye.